Hey, welcome back. We've got another in the new travel series for you, and this time I'm going to be talking about Las Vegas, another place that I wouldn't normally go to if I was a tourist, but I ended up going there a lot. I've been to Las Vegas quite a few times because every year there's a show there that I have to go to for work in January, and I really enjoy it actually. It's a place that I really thought I would hate, and I got there, it was pretty surreal. So I'm just going to go through a quick rundown of the things I found, the experiences I had. Hopefully it will help you guys make up your minds if it's a place you want to go and visit, and maybe if you have visited you can chuck some comments down below to help other people. Obviously Las Vegas is quite heavily orientated towards gambling. I'm not a big gambler, which is probably one of the reasons that I didn't have a huge interest in going there. When I first went, flew over, prices on the flights were as you would expect flying to America. One of the first surprises I had was actually landing at the airport there. It was super quiet, and every single time I've been, it's been very, very quiet at the airport. It's very roomy, very airy. It's not stressful at all, and it's quite an enjoyable experience. If you're used to, like me, going to like Heathrow, Gatwick, places like that, which are horrid experiences, you get bustled around, they're overcrowded, you just, everything seems a bit grubby. When you land in Las Vegas, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. At least I have been every single time I've been there. Got out of the airport. One thing to be wary of is there are a lot of scammers in Las Vegas, and the scamming starts right at the airport. So you will have guys outside the airport that straight away are saying, hey, I'll give you a ride, I've got a fancy car, I'm a taxi, whatever. And most of them are not taxis. There's an official taxi rank, which I would suggest you go to. I would also suggest asking at the airport desk, the information desk there, which is the official taxi rank. They'll make sure you get with the right people. A lot of the big resorts have their own buses that run from the airport straight to the hotel. So you might also ask information if your resort hotel has that bus as an option, and they'll direct you to that. Don't just jump in any random guy's cab because they will charge you an absolute fortune. So the first time I ever went there, I stayed outside of the strip, and this was the first mistake that I had made that I hope you guys won't make the same, because you automatically assume that these very huge and luxurious looking hotels directly on the strip are going to be hideously expensive. So when I booked, I went on the internet, I selected a hotel that was a little off the strip in a kind of a less populated area, and I booked in there. It was like a B&B type of place, and I ended up staying there. I think it was called the Mardi Gras, and it was like a mini casino stroke hotel, and it was about, say, a 15-minute walk from the strip itself. Now, the problem with that was that, yes, it was comparatively cheap, but it was pretty low rent. The rooms were kind of grubby. There was a lot of like noise at night. You could hear like domestic arguments going on and stuff. There was people like smoking weed directly outside of my room and keeping me awake. Sometimes my door was getting knocked and people were trying to get in. You could hear people outside, rattling the door and stuff like that. So it wasn't maybe feeling like it was the safest area. That was compounded when I walked down to the local gas station. I went in there. They clearly weren't used to kind of some English guy walking in there, because I guess all the tourists normally stay at the strip. So they were really nice. But they said to me, don't go and eat in the McDonald's over there. We call that the rape and stab. So that gave me an inkling as to the sort of area that I was staying in. And then I walked around the corner and someone said, hey man, sometimes there's some rough stuff going on around here. If you're a tourist, you sort of better watch your back. And I kind of noticed there was some unpleasant looking characters hanging around that area. So that wasn't great. That was a kind of mistake that I first made. A bit of a tip that I have bumped into a lot of unsavory groups in Las Vegas in various different guises, whether it's on the street or whether it's in like cafes and stuff like that. And they're clearly like gangster groups, that aren't, obviously haven't got my best intentions at heart, and they've kind of all walked up to me and said something. I've generally in those circumstances put on my best English accent and said, Oh, hello chaps, it's a lovely day, isn't it? I've just gotten here. I'm just having a look around. What a wonderful place this is. And that has always got me out of trouble because these guys are kind of taken aback. I guess they look at me and expect me to be some like thuggish American guy. And then when I start talking, they're kind of taken with the fact I'm English. They then start asking me about Hugh Grant films and football and all that kind of stuff. And I have a nice chat with them, and it sort of disarms them. So I've never actually had any serious problems over there, despite the fact I'm pretty sure I would have had some problems if I'd have answered in an American accent. So that got me out of a lot of trouble, but it's certainly a place that you can get in trouble. So if you're walking around outside of the tourist areas at night and you're like bumping into people, or even worse, if you get really drunk and you're walking around being an idiot, you could get into serious problems there. So definitely don't do that. One of the positive things about where I stayed was I really like Mexican food, tacos and stuff like that. And I did a quick search on Google and found that up the road there was a taco place, went in there, and to this day it's been my go-to taco place in Las Vegas. It's called Tacos and Beer. I thoroughly recommend you guys check it out, and it does regularly get reviews as one of the best taco places in Las Vegas. There's another one called Tacos El Gordo, which is also worth checking out. Tacos El Gordo is definitely more of a like authentic street vibe kind of place. It's like really traditional. It's not the kind of place you would go for like an upmarket meal, but if you really like kind of that kind of taco street food vibe, that's the most authentic stuff you're going to get in Vegas. If you want to go out with your loved ones, family, and sit down in really nice surroundings and enjoy some drinks and some really nice food, then check out Tacos and Beer for sure. And Tacos and Beer also has an amazing selection of IPAs and different beers, like ridiculously strong porters and stuff like that. So if you're into your beers, they've got like a huge list of tap beers on the wall, and 100% recommend it if you're into those. Whilst I was at that hotel, I was also approached by multiple pimps who were trying to kind of sell me the wares. And I didn't realise this at first. A pretty big guy came up and he's with a nice looking lady. She's got like a leather jacket on and stuff, quite a long leather jacket, which I sort of thought was quite odd. And he came up to me and said, "Hey man, do you like my woman? What do you think of her jacket?" And I'm being like polite in English, and I say, "Oh, your wife looks absolutely lovely, sir. What a pleasant jacket she's got on." And he said, "Oh, you like her?" And I said, "Oh yeah, she's a lovely looking lady. You're a very lucky man." And he said, "Well, I'll tell you what, you can have her for an hour." And I'm like, whoa, I don't want to get involved in anyone's relationships kind of thing. No problem. And he said, no, you don't understand. If you pay me, then you can take her for an hour. And then she's like opening her leather jacket and she's got some lingerie underneath. And when I got kind of closer to her as he was chatting to me, I realised she didn't look that nice actually. She kind of looked a bit ropey around the edges, let's say. And that's not what I was there for anyway. So I kindly declined his offer. He was actually he was quite offensive actually, because he said to me, "Hey, we 50?" Like meaning we're 50. And I said, "Hey, I'm not 50. You've put about 4 years on me, dude," because I think I was about 46 at the time. So yeah, kind of ageist. But he made me laugh. He was a pretty funny guy. But just be aware that that's going on. And also, if you go to any of the hotels and resorts, there will be women that come up to you, and I've had this as well, and some of them absolutely stunning. You'll be sat at a bar, especially if you're sat on your own, wearing like business attire, and a beautiful looking girl will come up to you wearing a slinky dress. She'll sit down and start kind of like order a cocktail, rubbing her finger around the glass and looking over at you and stuff, and you'll be thinking, hey, this is great. This beautiful woman is suddenly finding this middle-aged guy attractive. And if you've had a few drinks and if you've got a big ego, that's where you're going to fall down. Because look, be realistic with yourselves, guys. If you can honestly say that you look great, and you think that a woman of that sort of level would be checking you out, then fair enough. But I'm pretty realistic with myself. I know that if a 25-year-old woman sits down at a bar and she's like a size 6 and looks like a model, she's probably not going to be really checking me out hard because I'm like 40 whatever and I look a bit beat up. So I'm sure she could find some nice young male model to date and not me. So I'm suspicious straight away. But what these girls will do, you know, they'll start getting you to buy drinks, they'll get you to have a few drinks yourself, they'll offer to come up to your room. Once you get up to your room, they'll make it clear that this is going to be a financial transaction and it's not going to be cheap. You know, they're going to want $1,000 off you or something like that. Of course, a lot of the time, guys will just go along with it at that point because now they've got a girl in a room, she looks gorgeous, they're pretty drunk. They don't want the embarrassment of the hassle of, like, you know, trying to get rid of the girl without paying her, because she's going to start kicking off and saying, hey, I've spent all this time with you, you owe me money, the hotel staff are going to come, it's going to be a massive embarrassment. So that's how they work it. It's kind of a scam, kind of not, but just keep your wits about you and keep your egos in check, guys, because, like, just be realistic, you know. Because it's quite a scammy town, you know, you're not going to get just a load of beautiful girls coming up to you wanting to be your friend. People that live in Las Vegas are kind of quite suspicious. They know full well that the tourists are pretty green to stuff, and it's not that kind of town where you're going to, like, easily go and attract a load of girls just by sort of sitting in a bar or whatever. So whenever that kind of thing happens, just be suspicious of it. So the next thing I found was that actually I should have, you know, booked one of these resort hotels, because the second time I went, after having a pretty ropey experience the first time, I then looked at the prices for all the big hotels and I was amazed to see that some of them were even cheaper than the place I'd originally stayed, and these were directly on the Strip. You've got places like the Bellagio, the Mirage, you know, the really big resort hotels, which I'd always assumed they're like opulent, they must cost a fortune. Actually, you know, they do have opulent suites in them right at the top, these penthouse suites, but also they have very, very reasonably priced rooms. And they're not all great. You know, some of them, my friends have stayed in a few that they've had a really bad experience. The rooms have been filthy. They've had like people partying and going mad down the hallway and all kinds of shenanigans going on at night and loud shouting and stuff. I've never had that personally, but I do know people that have. I've stayed in a few. I think I stayed in the Treasure Island, the Mirage. Stayed in the Mirage 2 or 3 times. I stayed in the Link, I stayed in the Bellagio a couple of times, and they've all been great. I've not had any problems. You'll be surprised to find that some of them offer smoking rooms, so if you're a smoker you can actually ask for that. The downside is, if you're a smoker and you ask for smoking rooms, number one, the whole place is going to stink of smoke, and even if you're, you know, not smoking heavily in your room, like everywhere on that landing, it absolutely stinks of smoke. Also, you'll find it absolutely stinks of weed smoke, because cannabis is now legal in Vegas. Everywhere you go, you smell weed. I remember being over there with one of my bosses, and he was like, oh, you can smell cannabis everywhere in this place. You know, my room even smells of it in the morning. And I sort of had to laugh, because I'd noticed when the cleaning staff turned up outside, they were having a vape, and they were vaping weed basically, and they were just outside like an air thing that was dragging air in and obviously then pumping it through into the rooms as air conditioning or whatever. And I think it was just sucking all the weed vape in from them and then blasting it out into my boss's room. So it's making all his clothes and stuff stink of it. But yeah, everywhere you go, it pretty much smells. And if you don't want all your clothes and stuff smelling like that, then probably don't stay in the smoking area of the hotel. In those resorts, you can also smoke on the casino floors. So, you know, they also smell heavily of smoke. You can drink, smoke, eat and gamble all at the same time. In fact, the bartender told me that you haven't really experienced Las Vegas if you've done all of those at once. I think there's a picture of me doing that. I'll sling it up. You know, that's quite unusual if you've come from a country like me where that kind of thing just isn't happening anymore. Some people will find that very unpleasant and they won't want to be in these casinos. The casino resorts themselves are very interesting psychologically, because they are absolutely huge, and I can't underline this strongly enough. these places are so big. You know, that's one of the things that I was fascinated about with Las Vegas. The architecture on some of them is amazing. You know, the rooms and stuff inside some of them is absolutely mind-blowing. You know, there's one that it looks like you're inside, it looks like you're walking through Venice. It's got this sort of beautiful sunny day appearance. You actually think you're outside for a couple of minutes. It's so surreal, and then you realise it's like a mock-up, you know, that none of it's actually true. But yeah, there's a lot to see in these places, and they've built these resorts so that you don't want to leave, and they've also made them kind of awkward to leave. One of the downside in staying in these massive resorts is that sometimes it can take you like 25 minutes to get from your room out of the front door of the place. You know, if you think, oh, I've just got to nip out and grab something, there's nothing that's going to happen quickly about nipping out and grabbing something, because they will channel you generally through the casino and then this sort of winding pathway through all these slot machines past a bunch of restaurants. And it's a bit like going on a IKEA shopping trip. They have got a sort of route that you have to go through to get in or leave these places, and the route will take you past all these very tempting areas where they want you to spend money, because the rooms are comparatively cheap in these resorts because they're going to get you to stay there. Then they're going to psychologically try and get you to spend all of your money in the casino part. So you will find that they don't have windows to the outside world. You know, when you're walking through the casino, and the casino is huge, guys, like you can just be walking and you're still around slot machines and card tables, and it just goes on and on and on, and they're absolutely gigantic. They have like multiple bars in them. Very easy to get lost in the casinos and kind of not know your surroundings the first couple of days you're there. And there's no windows to the outside world. The signage is generally quite poor, and I think all that is to disorientate you so that it's not easy for you to navigate around. They will also give you free drinks. You know, if you're standing around and having a go on the machines, the girls will come over and offer you free drinks after a short time. And that again is designed to keep you there, because you think, hey, I'm getting free drinks, I might as well spend some more money in the machines. This is pretty cool. And especially if you're a tourist like me and you're not used to that, hey, free drinks, this is fantastic, you know. But of course, drinks are comparatively cheap to them compared to the amount of money you're putting in these slot machines. Thing to note about the slot machines, again, if you're from the UK like I am, these are not machines where you can go up and stick like 10p, 50p a pound in. These are machines that are geared up for high payouts. So some of them you could win $1 million or millions of dollars even as a jackpot, but the stakes, you know, the amount of money you're actually putting into them is quite high. And the way you do that is to go and cash up with a cashier. You know, ask for some money on a ticket, and you pay the cashier with generally a debit card or a credit card, or you pay them cash. They credit this little ticket for you. You then put that thing in the machine. The machine will then play spins off of that. So that's another psychological trick they're using, that you're not actually burning through money and having to put that in the machine each time. Of course, you're going to ask to put quite a lot of money on this ticket, so you don't have to keep going back up to the cashier. And then of course you stick that in the machine, and every time you hit that button you might be losing $5 or $10 or whatever it is. You're quickly going to burn through that money. Then you're probably going to go back and do the same thing again. If you get a win, the machines don't spit out, you know, loads of coins out the bottom like they do in the UK. They spit your card back out when you finished, and you have to tell it that you finished, because it won't do it automatically, and that will be credited. So then you have to go up and again claim your winnings from the lady behind the counter. It's not going to be something that just spits out of the machine in front of you. The machines are very complicated. You know, I suggest you go on YouTube if you're going to go over there and play them and you're going to spend any large amount of money doing that. Go and research, you know, the way these machines work, because even the winning lines and the payouts are not simple. I'm used to like old school in the 80s and 90s. We played fruit machines over here, and they would get like 3 things in a row, you know, win 3 number 8s or whatever. Great, I've won. No, there's like random weird payouts on these things and all kinds of side quests and games. So I would suggest, you know, going on YouTube, have a look at people playing these things, learn maybe how to use one of the machines and then go over there. I went over there, I wanted to have a gamble, and I spent like, I think I spent $40. I put it into one machine. I'd looked at this machine, it was called Buffalo Gold. I'd seen people playing it online, and it's actually quite addictive to watch even the YouTube videos of people like hitting jackpots and stuff on these machines. It's pretty cool. And I put $40 in this thing, and I actually won, I think, $120. I took that out, cashed it in, kept it, never played the machine again for the rest of the week. So, you know, that was good. It probably funded an evening out, having a bit of food and drink. But I also saw a lot of people just putting money upon money in these things and going home very disappointed at the end. That's what the casinos are all about. There's obviously only one winner. Interestingly, all the casinos smell slightly different, and they smell quite nice. They've each got their kind of host smell, their own like specific smell. And I learnt from a guy that I was talking to who worked in them that they actually pump these smells through the air conditioning of the casinos. And number one, they've had these smells mixed up by like perfumers or whatever. And the smells are kind of supposed to be enticing, and they work on, you know, certain areas of the brain to get you in a good mood. But also you become to associate that smell with that place. And if you've had a good win in that place, then you go back in there, and every time you smell that smell, it gives you that sort of dopamine eruption again, and of course you're tempted to gamble. So it's very, very sly and psychological the way that they've set it all out, and it's all designed to take money off you, which is why the rooms are cheap in the first place. So take advantage of the cheap rooms in the resort hotels. Understand it's going to take you a long time to get to and from the front door, and understand you're going to have to navigate a lot of temptation in order to do that. If you're someone who has a gambling issue, probably don't stay in one of those resorts, because you're never going to get out of the front door, you know, and that's exactly why these places exist. The other big mistake that I made was looking at, you know, you can be quite high up on these casino resorts, and then if you look out the window of your room and you see another one that looks tempting, say I'm staying at the Mirage and I look out the window and I see a resort over there and I think, oh, that looks really cool, I'm just going to walk over there. Because everything's so massive, it really skews your concept of how far things are away. So you get out of the front of your hotel, you're now 25 minutes later, you've been walking a long time. Then you walk to this other place, which you don't realise, but the walk, yeah, it's like 2 buildings away, but those 2 buildings are absolutely huge. So by the time you get to this other place, it can be like 3/4 of an hour more. You've walked, you know, however far. And if you actually look at your step count and how far you've walked at the end of each day, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely massive. You know, I was getting very interested to walk around and look at all these different things, and it's crazy actually the amount of mileage you end up doing. Especially when I'm at a show, I was also walking about 11-12 miles at the show, just walking from place to place, and then I would come back from that and be walking around the town, and we would walk even further. Generally in the evening, if you're not staying in the resort, I would recommend, if you've never been before, just walking up and down the strip. There's some really cool stuff going on the street. You know, there's lots of things to see. There's lots of weird and wonderful stuff. Obviously, be aware of scammers, because a lot of people are going to try and lure you in. You're going to get guys that turn up that are trying to take you off to like porn shows. I've never been to one, so I can't comment, but from what I've been told, they're pretty scammy. There's loads and loads of girls and guys that are going to be dressed up on the street wearing cool outfits. You see a lot of tourists running up to them and trying to take pictures. That causes a big problem, because those people are actually charging money for pictures to be taken with them. Famously, you'll see a lot of the girls dressed up in these like feather hats, and they've got these like slinky little bikini things on, sexy looking girls, and a lot of the guys want pictures taken with them. The pictures can range from anything from like $5 up to about $50. So again, be aware, don't just run up and take a picture, because then they're going to charge you a huge amount of money to, you know, before you get away, and they will actually shout for the police to come over. You know, if you're trying to walk away and say you're not going to pay them, they will shout for the police, and the police will come and give you some grief because you've been a stupid tourist and you should have realised that these people are charging money for a service. There's a lot of people that are kind of down and out and walking around. Maybe they've got drug issues, alcohol issues, and they're also going to be trying to entice you to go with them. They're going to show you the sights, or, you know, offering to do some kind of stuff for you, and maybe offering to sell you drugs or whatever. Again, don't go off with them. It's not going to end well. They're obviously pretty desperate, and they don't have inroads to take you to the best and swankiest restaurants. Let's put it that way. Use your brains a little bit there. Eating in Las Vegas, as I mentioned, there's some great places. What I would strongly suggest is, before you go, research, watch some YouTube videos. There's loads of really good YouTube videos on where to eat in Las Vegas. I spent like 2 days the first time I went. I spent a couple of days researching all the good places to eat, and then I kind of narrowed it down. And they've got, you know, some of the best eateries that you could ever find in any country in Vegas, because it's such a heavy tourist influenced city that of course you're going to be able to find, you know, something that you really enjoy, and they're really, really top quality. They've also got a lot of stuff that is not top quality. So if you're just a tourist wandering around, you can see places that from the outside look really cool. You know, they've got all the right decor and they look amazing. They can be quite busy, but you can get in there. They can be very overpriced, and the food is absolute junk, you know. So do your due diligence before going. There's generally, you know, 20 or 30 places in Vegas that consistently get very good write-ups. They're well known for being of high quality, so it's not difficult to suss out where you should try. When you're walking up and down the strip, outside the front of the few of the resorts, they've got some really cool free shows. They've got like a pirate show outside Treasure Island, I think it is. They do like a singing and dancing act with all kinds of cool stuff going on with this pirate ship. Then you've got the fountains outside the Bellagio. That's pretty amazing. You know, they do these amazing orchestrated pieces to music with some lights, really worth having a look at. And that's normally, I think, every half an hour, something like that. And I was outside, I think the Mirage has a volcano, but I believe that's being taken down now. But there's a few different things that you can see on the street, on the strip, which you can just, you know, for free, stop and have a look at, and you can walk around, have a drink, look at these free experiences. It's a really cool thing, and that'll probably take up maybe 2 or 3 nights, you know, that you can do that and look at different stuff, and just have an enjoyable evening, especially in the hot weather. Really worth doing. I used to enjoy going to a place opposite the Bellagio called the Beer Garden, and that has some like little sporting things you can do, table football and stuff like that. They also have a really good range of beers in there. It's an outdoor venue on the terrace overlooking the main part of the strip, and it's just a pretty cool place to sit and eat. Once you've played out the strip and you've had enough of that, I really recommend going to downtown Vegas. That's probably a taxi ride, to be fair. You can walk there, but it is quite a long walk, and you do go through some pretty rough areas to get there, and just areas that aren't that pleasant to walk through. The traffic can be pretty busy, so I think it's worth, you know, jumping in a cab or whatever and just getting yourself to downtown. That's also referred to as DTLV or Fremont Street. People say we're going to Fremont Street. That's what they mean, downtown. And Fremont Street has this Fremont Street experience, and that is amazing. You know, I'd definitely go and watch that, which is basically it's like a whole covered street, and the whole of the ceiling is this amazing light show. They've got like giant screens across the whole ceiling, and it's really, really cool. The light show changes as well. I'm not sure if it changes daily or weekly, but I've seen quite a few different displays there, and every 20 or 30 minutes they repeat this show, and it's got like a really cool soundtrack. Along that street you will see some amazing stuff. There's people doing performing arts, there's magicians, there's people doing like live rock music. We saw a really, really cool Dire Straits tribute band there, and they were actually amazing. You know, you could hardly tell them apart from the real thing. They're a really high quality band, and I don't know how it's funded, but they're literally just playing, and you can stand there and watch. Obviously you can go up to the bar and buy yourself a drink, and people just do that for the whole night. There's loads and loads of bars down there that are selling like these sort of great big plastic glasses with a big straw in, and you can have all these daiquiris and stuff like that. A lot of drunkenness in that area. That's also the place where you've got the Heart Attack Grill, the Golden Nugget, and a couple of other famous restaurants. I think Evil Pie is there, which is a really good pizza place that's worth checking out. But it's a really eclectic area, and you probably could go there for 2 or 3 nights in a row and have an amazing time. It's really, really good fun. There's a lot of wacky people there. So even if you just sat in one of the bars and had a couple of drinks to yourself, even a coffee, a cigar, and you look out onto the street, you will see some insane stuff going on. It's pretty hilarious. Be careful about videoing, because a lot of the Las Vegan people, especially the street acts and stuff, they can get pretty leery if you try and take video. I took some down Fremont Street, you know, doing the light show thing and taking some of the scene, and that's pretty normal. But if you start scanning around people, they get pretty uppity. I kind of rebutted them and said, hey, you know, it's perfectly legal to walk down there and take some video. But they really kicked off, you know, they were screaming and shouting at me, and it's kind of embarrassing. So I would avoid taking videos of the street performers, because the reason they're probably doing that is because they want you to pay. You know, they want you to give them money if you want to take video of what they're doing. So that's one thing that's worth noting. Again, in that area, you know, there's a lot of crime. There's pickpockets. There's people that are trying to scam you and getting you off to go down a side alley with them and do some sort of hustle. Don't fall for that. You know, don't go off with them. And also be careful with your drinks. Girls, if you're out and about in Vegas, it's obviously a party place. You know, there's lots of drinking going on. It's very busy. There's a lot of bustle. It would be way too easy for a guy to slip something into your drink and then say, oh God, she's got a bit drunk, I'll help her go home, and then you disappear. So I would very much recommend that you really be careful. Make sure you've got a lid on your drinks, or you've got your friends watching over them, etc. The prices in Vegas are reasonable for what it is. You know, if you're used to paying London prices, you're not going to be at all surprised by Las Vegas. You know, if you find the right places to eat, it can be incredibly reasonable. I wasn't at all concerned about the prices of drinks or food. I found it all very realistic. Certainly food-wise, for the amount of food you get, you know, we'll go somewhere and pay $20 for a breakfast, which, yeah, that's about £15, but it is like the biggest, most calorific breakfast you've ever seen in your life. The coffee will be utterly, infinitely refillable and massive. Like, you will definitely get your money's worth, you know, and if you asked for extra bits, you know, they're very, very service orientated. They do expect tips in Vegas, so if your breakfast is advertised as being $15, they're probably going to expect you to leave $5 or $10 on top of that. Be aware of that. Obviously you don't have to, but if you go back there again, they're going to recognise you and think that guy's an arsehole, and you're probably going to get terrible service. But in terms of the amount of food you get, is good value. Think about that as well. If you're someone who's on a diet, or someone like a couple that doesn't eat much food, you might consider ordering like one breakfast and an extra plate. Because if you were just eating like what you would normally eat for breakfast, you could probably eat one of those, share it between you, and you would both have a completely satisfactory amount of food for breakfast. They are massive, like bordering on the ridiculous in some places. Like, it's more than I could eat, you know. I had like a trucker's breakfast, I think they called it, in one place, and it literally filled me up for the whole day. Like, I couldn't have eaten lunch after that. And then when we came round to dinner, I still felt full up, and I only had like a salad for dinner because I just couldn't eat any more food. It was so calorie dense. If you're on a diet, Las Vegas isn't the place to go. You will actually struggle to find anything that's healthy in the whole place. You know, there are places you can go, but they're quite a mission to get to. They're quite unusual. Most of the places is cake, ice cream, pizza, all this like barbecue food, all deep fried. It's all very, very calorie dense. It's all plied with alcohol. You know, a lot of the places, even at lunchtime, will have a deal where you can buy some food and it comes with an alcoholic drink, and that's a really good price. because they've realised that if they can get you on 2 or 3 of these strong alcoholic drinks at lunchtime and keep you in there, you know, you're going to spend a lot more money. They're not stupid. Hopefully part of the calorific content will be burnt off with the amount of walking that you do in Vegas, but just be aware, you know, it's you don't want to go on holiday and then come back like 15 pounds heavier, and that is entirely possible in that place. That's probably the biggest danger, that you would come back with, you know, half of your savings that you left with, and then you would come back with double the amount of fat that you had when you went. So that could be a bad holiday. If you go with that knowledge to start with, hopefully you can mitigate both things from happening and have an enjoyable time. Las Vegas is completely surreal. Like, it's just, you have to experience it. If you haven't been, I cannot recommend it enough. I don't really like big cities. I don't like glitzy stuff. I don't like gambling, as I mentioned. I'm not a big drinker, so I'm literally the last person who would be recommending Las Vegas. But I had a really great time because I do like people watching. I like extreme personalities and sort of sitting back and watching things going on. And it gives, if you're a people watcher, or you're interested in psychology, or you're just interested and fascinated by weird things and surreal stuff and interesting architecture, then it's definitely the place to go to. You know, even the architecture that's quite modern, you're in awe of the size of these things, you know, the vast expanse, the amount of money that it's taken to build these vast places. The wealth involved is just absolutely mind-blowing. You know, it's really, really fascinating to me, and I had a great time there. The Americans that I met there were incredibly welcoming. It's like I said, it's a service orientated place. They're going to do a really good job of looking after you. And the only thing you might find is that some people are kind of a little bit jaded, because in Las Vegas it's so intense and it's so hectic that once you've been there a few days, it kind of starts to wear you out. I always say in Vegas, like, I wish I could just go there for 3 days. You know, that would be like a perfect time for me. I'd go there for 3 days with my girlfriend or something like that, have a nice time, come straight home. If you're there for a week, you kind of start feeling like you're getting totally worn out, and I'm sure the people that work there just feel that all the time. And you just get sort of Las Vegas burnout in the last couple of days. So that's probably why some of the staff are like looking a bit pissed off and maybe not always happy to serve, but on the whole they're superb. You know, I've got no arguments with them at all. Guys, I hope that has helped you and let you know if that's a destination that's worth visiting. Like I said, I had a great time. I'll be back there in January this year, and I'm actually looking forward to it. Well, the first 3 days anyway. But I hope you guys check it out. Leave a comment down below if you've had some good times there. Let me know of any places you recommend for food, and let everyone else know that as well. And I'll check out the comments. Anything, if you've got any questions, ask them down below. I always look at the comments and I'll do my best to answer. Take care. I'll catch you again soon.